Hello everybody, my name is Kevin Smith, and today I will be presenting on the Adobe security breach of 2013. So in this presentation, I will cover how the security breach happened, how the encrypted data was deciphered, and the lessons learned from this attack. So first, I'd like to give a quick overview of who Adobe is. They're one of the largest distributors of digital software in the world. Their products include Photoshop, ColdFusion, Acrobat Reader, just to name a few, and they're used by many private and large corporations and by millions of users a day. So the breach was originally announced on October 3rd of 2013. The original estimate was approximately 3 million users having their accounts compromised, as well as some product source code being stolen as well. It was determined, however, at first that the passwords and usernames had not been deciphered and that everybody's credit card information should be safe. This, however, was wrong, as a 40 gigabyte file was found online that had up to 150 million usernames, passwords, and email addresses, and for some users, their credit card information. And this information, it was determined the hackers were able to decipher the encrypted text and break the hashing algorithm. So the problem here was that the causes of this was all because of out-of-date software. The out-of-date software, one possibility was the thought that it was through a ColdFusion exploit, which had been known to have vulnerabilities. Regardless of how it happened, the hackers were able to break in through outdated software and get to a source code repository through a credit card transactions network. Getting through the credit card transaction network, of course, allowed them to simply get all the information they needed, and the source code repository allowed them to steal many of Adobe's product source code. This took Adobe 2 months to discover, and the actual attack had been in mid-August of 2013. So Adobe obviously has some major security issues, and looking at their track record, it's amazing that they were not able to prepare for something like this. In the past 3 years, some of their security issues have been, such as in 2010, attackers created malicious PDF attachments. This allowed hackers to break into Google, Rackspace, and embarrassingly enough, Adobe themselves. In 2011, a Flash exploit gave hackers remote access to personal computers. And in 2012, hackers were actually able to access Adobe's security systems by tapping into internal servers. Overall, Adobe has never really been on the ball with security, and their security is actually pretty abysmal. So an attack like this, it's not really surprising it happened. Looking at the encryption, however, the biggest problem that security expert has was that the passwords were not salted. A salted password is where extra bits are added at the end of the hash to make passwords truly unique when they are hashed, and also to prevent hackers from breaking everybody that has the same password all at once. Because this was not the case, the results were the hackers did not have a hard time hacking it. They compromised security accounts faster, and they were able to compromise even more accounts than if the passwords were salted. However, it's not all the fault of Adobe. It was determined that many of the users used extremely weak passwords, such as password 1 or ABC123 and other terrible password types. So, looking at the figure above, we see a couple areas outlined. The major ones we want to look at are number 4 outlined in green and number 5 outlined in blue. Number 4 is the password that is hashed. Number 5 is the password hint. The problem here is that users were lazy. Users simply put their password hint as the password. So as soon as the hackers were able to find that the password QWERTY123 equaled that hash, every user that used the password QWERTY123 was compromised. A salted password would have prevented this, and only the user that put the password in the password hint would have been compromised. So lazy users don't only simply hurt themselves, they hurt other users. And in this case, it caused up to 150 million people to have compromised accounts. So, the impact of this was a lot of corporations fearing zero-day attacks and hackers getting into their corporations through Adobe's products vulnerabilities. It was also a problem because many of the Adobe's users reused their passwords for their corporation accounts and other accounts. So every other account that had the same email and password was of course compromised as well. A lesser impact is lost revenue for Adobe because now their products can be more easily stolen since the source code is out there. The personal information affected was credit card fraud, and a lot of people were upset that this could occur. Adobe, in response, offered 1 year free credit monitoring to those that had been affected. Again, private users also had to change passwords over large areas if they reused their passwords. So looking at the lessons learned is first off, the size of your company, it doesn't matter. Security breaches will still happen. Adobe, for having such a long run of security issues, obviously thought that they were too big to have anything like this ever happen. And because of this, they did not have um, adequate encryption, and instead they allowed a large amount of their customer base to become compromised, including their credit card information. Another lesson is that Adobe should have used their previous incidences as a learning reference. Adobe's record will get worse if they do not. If they were to learn exactly what went wrong and where these vulnerabilities lied, they could easily have prevented them from happening and encrypted the password just by adding that one extra layer, and many of Adobe's customers would not have their information compromised. And one of the biggest ones is obviously ensuring up-to-date software. Don't simply use out-of-date software because you're too lazy to update, because there could be significant vulnerabilities, as there was in this case, and we have to eliminate those vulnerabilities. The user's lessons, however, are that they must create strong passwords. Their passwords cannot be simplistic. They can't reuse passwords over multiple sites, or else, if one attack happens, their account's not only compromised on that site, but every other site as well. It also shows that two-factor authentication needs to be improved because of lazy users. Corporations should force users to make strong passwords, and then two-factor authentication is stronger than if they were allowed to enter whatever password they want. So in conclusion, Adobe can easily fix many of their problems. Update their software, add that extra layer of encryption, and look at the lessons learned and how they can prepare for another attack and prevent it from occurring. They should definitely use their past incidences as learning tools, and if they don't, it's just going to get worse. Attacks will continue to happen to many large corporations, and if done correctly, many of these corporations can prevent them from ever happening again, or at least limit the impact that they have. And here is my sources that I used. Thank you very much.